Let's take a look at our assignment for Monday, August the 23rd for our senior English class. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to read the romantic poem, The Highwayman. This is a text that we will use for most of the rest of the week, or we'll use it Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday for sure. We'll kind of circle back around on it a little bit on Tuesday as well when we talk about characterization. But today is our goal is to make sure that we really understand the text, that we really have a good idea of what it's saying, and we have a full comprehension of it. Okay, because again, we will be using this for the rest of the week. We will be using those annotation skills that we have talked about this week, and we want to continue practicing those. So what we will start by doing is you will quickly skim the text, probably just take a couple, 3 minutes and skim the text. When you get done, at the very bottom of the text, you'll see this box right here, which asks you to skim, after skimming the text, to capture your first impression. So this is where you will put the things that jumped out to you, the things that you remember, your first impressions. You liked it, you didn't like it, it was hard, it was difficult, whatever. Try to be a little bit specific and try to include some explanation as you do this. But this part of the assignment does not need to be in full sentences. This can just be a list of thoughts and ideas. Again, what we talked about before was the fact that this gives you a sense of what you thought about the text, so that as you read it for comprehension the next time, you have a sense of where you're coming at it mentally, from a good place, a bad place, a difficult place, or whatever. We would like for you to read it fully this time for comprehension. And as you're reading it, you're going to highlight in yellow the things that you question or that you just don't get. Now, it could be something as simple as a vocabulary word, right? Like maybe you're not familiar with the word torrent. And so we're going to highlight that in that yellow, right? But maybe you would be like, how come they repeated these words? Okay. Now, if you are going to do that, why did he repeat these words? Now, when you do, if you're highlighting a word like for vocabulary or something like that, you probably don't necessarily need to put a note unless you look it up, and then you might want to put the definition. But when you are reading it for like, hey, I don't understand this part. What does this mean? What are they trying to say here, right? Then you do want to put that question in there. We do want to see what that means, so that when we see what you are questioning, we can help address that for you. And again, we will take some time after we read this to answer those questions for you. You can either type it in this notes column here, or you can add a comment, which you'll see right over here. So you just highlight a piece of it, and then you can add it in the comment. Either way works for us, just as long as we see that you've added in that commentary. And remember, that's one of the parts of annotation: identifying, that's highlighting; comment, what was your question, why did you find this was important, and then that kind of digest, which we'll look at in a minute. After you've identified these things and we've gone through and answer those questions for you, then we want you to read it, and we want you to highlight in blue the things that you think are super important, the things that we really need to know to fully understand this text. Now, that could be like a name, that could be a place. For instance, this happened at the old inn, right? And so maybe this is something that you would highlight in that blue color, like, okay, it happened here, right? These are things that you think are really important to understanding. Now, it could be setting a character, it could be, a really particular facet, right? Or it could be like something that you think is critical to understanding the story. For instance, down here, he took off. After he comes to the girl that he likes, and he tries to come in, he's courting her, he takes off and he says, I will come back. I will come back by midnight, right? And galloped away. And so the girl knows that he's coming back, and she knows from what direction he's coming, right? And so we know that later on, when she is trying to warn him of her captors, right? She knows that in advance. And this is something that's probably important to know. Again, we would put that in here. She knows he will come back. and from which direction. And again, you can do it in that notes column there, or you can do it in a comment to the side. Okay. The last thing that you will do when you get to the very end is that you will write a summary of the text and your reaction to reading it. Now, the summary, again, is that kind of overarching kind of retelling of this in your own words. Do we need every single every single detail? No, not at all. Hit the big, large points so that we know that we know what you know about the text, right? It also gives us a sense of how you understood it. And then we want to see your reaction to the text. And that is, you liked it and why, or you identified with part of it, or you felt a certain way based upon what you read, right? So it's kind of your reaction to it. Now, the part where we talked about the first impressions could just be a list of notes, ideas, bullet points, whatever. This part does need to be in full sentences so that we can fully understand what you're saying. When you are done today in class, you will submit this so that we can take a look at it. On Tuesday, we will do characterization. On Wednesday, we will come back to this text and we will be looking for characterization.